Okay, guys. Well, welcome to the Buff Show. Today we got an exciting little discussion that we're going to have here. Ben, why don't you lead us off? Tell us what you're thinking here.
Well, I wanted to bring this up because I run into it a lot with first-time home buyers, people that haven't bought a house for a long time or they're in one. So it's kind of an across-the-board need. But the biggest roadblock that I get is I can afford it, but I don't want to, right? The first thing we do is we get someone sent to a lender, see where they qualify, how much money they can do, and then they get shell-shocked.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays.
They can afford it. They just don't want to.
They don't want to. They want their cake and they want to eat it too,
Yeah.
right?
They want their current lifestyle, which might have irresponsible spending habits.
Yep.
Well,
And
I think the biggest problem right now is we just saw house prices double in value in a matter of
3-4 years.
Yeah, 5-ish years. And I think everybody that either owns a house, they're like, my payment's like $1,200 a month. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go to X amount. Like when they go meet with a lender and they try and, in order to qualify to sell that house, put their funds over to this house, like this house is going to cost 2-3 times what their payment
monthly,
is there.
Even bringing in that much equity.
And so you're saying you're running into it a lot, and people are basically complaining about like, oh, it's expensive. Like my parents, or when I bought this house, it was cheaper. And there's all these.
I wouldn't even say complaining. I would say what I'm seeing is a delusion, a lack of reality. Right?
Yeah.
We talk about it. You have stuff on Instagram, but it's all just surface level, like clickbait, catchy stuff. But people aren't actually talking about like rates and mortgages. Like a $2,000 mortgage is almost unheard of.
yeah,
Unless you're huge money in. And where you're listening to grandpa and grandma, mom and dad, and even have parents, I feel, given delusions to their kids of,
yep.
well, you shouldn't do that, because mine did this.
Because when I bought my house was only $100,000 and my payment was $500 a month. And I think what I say to those people, when you have parents or family members say that, say, well, what did your parents say when you bought your house for $100,000?
Exactly.
Your grandpa was pissed because he paid 10 grand for his 100 acres wherever he was at. And so it's the tell of time. Like, you're going to look back and tell your kids, you're going to say, hey, remember in 2024, I paid 500 grand or 800 grand for this house. And your kids are going to be like, geez, dad had it easy.
Yeah, I bought a Coke for $1. Yeah. That was ours. Gas was 95 cents. But how I want to kind of run this, and to show that it's not just first-time home buyers, these two are currently looking or even in the process of buying a new home. And what I want to implore to a lot of the people out there is give yourself a reality check. And the best way to do that is to soundboard. Even myself or anyone that's in the industry, soundboard off your agent or a lender or someone like that. Give yourself the reality check so you can be ready when you actually going to make that move. So some of the things I want to talk about today is like, Peyton, you're right in the middle of a big life move. And I'm sure you're having those hesitations or, man, if I do this, it moves me toward my goal, but I can't go on vacation, or I can't, do this as much, or I went from my house I just got pretty and nice. Like, what's going through your head right now? What would stop you if something was going to get in your way?
Yeah, no, it's super scary. So we're currently buying another house in Eden, and like a lot of people saw us list our house and they're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're crazy. You've only been there a few years and you've got it exactly where you wanted it. And it's been a journey for me to get, like, first I was like, well, we'll buy this house in Eden, the house that we're currently in, we'll fix it up and then we'll sell it and like use those funds to buy another house. Well, our house didn't sell right away. Right. In fact, it didn't sell.
What you decided to do with it?
We decided to rent it, which is crazy. So like, it's been this evolving journey of like just piecing it together. And I would say what has helped me realize that it's okay, because up to this point, currently my most expensive mortgage is $1,600 a month.
I going to be more than that on this
my
next
new
one?
mortgage is over $5,500 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that a wall for you?
That was a huge wall.
Yeah.
But you know what helped me cross it is I have had multiple clients that I've watched break that threshold, and they're like, oh, it's fine. It sucks, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, and one way that we've mitigated that risk is it wouldn't have been as much had our house sold, but our house didn't go the way I wanted it to. Like,
which happens, which is a reality.
There was a shiz ton of homes on the market in the valley, and could have we sold it? I think we could have if I would have dropped the price low enough, obviously. But then I was like, I mean, it's kind of working out in our favor now because I just got creative. I'm like, well, what if we kept the shop, rented the house, kept the pasture in the back, and it's serving all these purposes. So now I get a shop that I can store stuff in from our house, and we can rent the house out for X. It cash flows enough to help offset the payment here.
Mhm.
And then the house that we're actually buying.
Here's where I want to point out our podcast, viewers. This house that you're actually buying, are you making is you moving into somewhere it's a lateral step up? Is it beautiful, ready to go?
It is a big step down. So we're moving into a house that needs a ton of work. I mean, it was the house that we bought a few years ago, except this house that we bought, we fixed up before we moved into it. This house, we're moving into it and not fixing it up. I'm okay with it because my kids are rugrats, animals. Like they just beat stuff up. So I'm like, I'm excited for them to beat up a house that's not in great condition. So I'm okay with that. But yeah, we're taking, like, we no longer have a master suite. We no longer have like our sweet steam shower. Like there's all these things. Yeah, there's things that I'm not going to love about it, but I'm excited about other things about it. And we're going to rent out a side of the house. So no longer is it just our house. And I guess I'm just okay with making those sacrifices and stepping back. What would be a step back in life, because this house is on 3 acres. I have a vision for what we can turn it into. And that is what it's taking for me to justify the $5,500 a month mortgage payment. But
what I want people to hear and see is, and Peyton's a lot more analytical, right? And he's been in the process, but he's still, even as successful as he's been, has to sacrifice, definitely take it in the shorts on payment wise.
Oh, for sure.
For what he wants in the future.
Yeah.
He's finally come to terms that he's going to have to not be able to eat his cake anymore. Mm-hmm. And he's going to have to let it bake for a few years.
Because there was another house that you kept telling me to buy.
That was ready.
That was ready. It has everything, but it was like $600,000 more.
Yep.
And Ben's like, you should just buy that house. And I'm like, I would like to, but I can't really get to that point. And that one would have been like a lateral move, or a step up, because it had more ground, the horse barns, the arena, like everything that we were wanting. But in my head, I just couldn't justify it. And I think if our house had sold, I could have been closer to justifying it. But honestly, I'm grateful for how it's working out now. At least I'm telling myself that right now, because if I can keep, here's my new vision, keep running our house for the next 8 to 10 years.
Sure.
Which sucks, because I've always told myself this, that my house is never going to look as good as it does now. Like it's only going to get worse, which means I'm probably going to have to remodel that house again, which sucks.
Not probably.
I will.
You're going to.
And this house that we spent $350,000 into is going to get beat up by tenants. These tenants that we signed a lease with, they have 2 dogs. And I'm like, oh, it's okay though. I'm telling myself that, maybe I'm eating my words and this is recorded now.
Here's the thing. I think what you're doing is you're realizing right now, you're like, yeah, I'm optimistic. And you're past that. You're a little farther in the process where people have overcome that fear, but you're past that. And now you're going, I know all of my sacrifices, and there's still going to be a thorn in your side, but you know that by sacrificing, you're going to get further down your journey where you want to be, to have horse property, to have a little more room.
That's the thing. We want the horse property. Carly is struggling with it more than I am, because for her, she's like, this house is everything. I can see the kids right out the back window. Like it's very family friendly. This other house isn't quite that way. I'm still stoked. For her, it's been harder. Like I'm okay to like 10 steps back in like quality of living, but I'm more excited about the other areas that it's going to provide. So, and then overall, I think it's going to work out better, because I'm like, man, if I have 2 houses in Eden 10 years from now, it's just going to be worth so much more when the Olympics come and stuff like that. So that's how I've been justifying it. And then we're putting 20% down. Like I have all these things that I need to do to make this work. And then it's just been like a hustle of I have to sell more. Like I have to make this happen.
Feeling that.
So we're going to get to Austin's story here soon.
Yeah.
I had one client, and so I pull a lot of like good, maybe stories or lessons learned from clients of mine that I've worked with. So one client, like his mortgage payment's over $5,000 a month. And I'm like, and he's a close friend of mine. I'm like, if he can afford that, like, I think I can stomach that. But whenever I talk to my parents or my grandparents or certain people, like, they're like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, well, you wouldn't have got to where you got if you didn't take the risks that you took that your parents thought were stupid for you to get there.
I stopped by a friend's house that he's rebuilt, and it ended up burning down. And he's a salesman, right? He's not a real estate agent, but he's a salesman. And we just got talking about life. And I said, yeah. And, you know, even though we're definitely in a recession, this and that. And he kind of stopped me and he goes, you know, here's the thing about recession and timing. And everyone's worried about, you know, grandpa did it for this, I did it for that. And he goes, my dad was a depression baby, right? He grew up, you know, the stories of mud floors and stuff. And then he talked that same thing. And he literally told me, if somebody wants it bad enough, right now is still one of the best times. He goes, I think of all these kids that say it's so hard to get in a house. It's just difficult. And he said, I shut my gas meter off because I couldn't afford the gas in my home and live in my home. He's like, I would work nights, or I bought a truck that was barely running just to get us through. Most families only had one truck. He goes, I had to sell the truck 1 month and ride a bike to work.
Wow.
And he goes, if you want a house and you want a home, you do it, right?
Yeah.
That's the hard part. People are if it's not easy, or if there's just not a clear path, they say it's hard. We're in a recession. It's so much harder for kids nowadays. And they're getting it pumped into their heads from the news and from us and from how hard it is. But if you want it, you will get it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the biggest takeaway is, I was like, man, I feel like an idiot now. Like, because he's just like, I've been there, I've done that. And it makes me think back to some of the times where I missed opportunities because I didn't want to give up a flush lifestyle, right? I didn't want to not be able to go out and eat, you know, whenever we wanted, or go to Sam's Club and buy all the snacks and good stuff. And you think about the little sacrifices and what it even teaches our kids and family. Like, everything's just, we're so fortunate right now. If you want a house and the bank says you can afford it, do it, right? You can do it. You just have to get your priority right.
That's my thing about kids have it harder these days. Maybe not, but that's irrelevant. If they want to step up or they want to change in house, you have to do it. If the bank will say you can do it and you want that, then maybe it is harder for you to do it than it was for your grandpa. That's arguable, but maybe it is. But that is the world that we live in today. It's not getting cheaper. We're not going to see a massive crash in Utah housing prices.
Well, unless you gave that $2,000 government COVID relief check back when they sent that out to every American. Like, how much was it? Was it $2,000? Do you guys remember?
It was like 700 and then another 700 and then what? Yeah,
I think it depended on how many kids you had. And
if you took that and you're like, I mean, obviously we all took it.
Yeah.
That is what has caused this massive spike in prices. Like, I don't know the stats, but we significantly increase the circulation of money in the system. Everything's just going to get more expensive, and that's what we're seeing. And so we can just whine and complain about it right now, or we can figure out ways to make it work. But that is a new reality. Our great grandparents, the houses that they bought back then were sub $100,000 houses. Even my parents, my dad's first house, newlyweds up in Smithfield, $14,000 is what they paid for it. So that's been 36 years ago. They
say that and it skews there, and they get scared for us as kids. But what this old redneck buddy of mine said to me, he goes, it's always hard.
Yeah.
It's always going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's not any harder or any less hard from them in the Depression to us now. It's just a different look on it,
just
right?
A different scale of money.
Yeah. It's a different hard. And you can try to change every, and it's going to be a different hard for every person, every family, in every state, in every county. But I think it just comes down to the sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, we've lost that. And I think that's what's happened is the willingness to sacrifice and dig deeper.
Yeah.
I think that's what's did.
Change the lifestyle a little bit to make it happen.
It's the beliefs. Like, it's funny because you've been selling for how long?
A couple, 3 years.
3 years. So Austin moved here from Kansas
yeah.
with no properties,
right,
no income.
Yeah.
And how many properties do you own now? Whether you own or you have partnership in?
Like 5 properties.
So you've been averaging a couple properties a year that you've been able to buy in this hard, difficult time of
6, actually,
real estate. And I bought a lot of my properties back when things were maybe a little bit easier to get financed. The numbers worked a little bit better, but what I've admired about both of you guys is you've been like the situation hasn't really dissuaded you from still buying properties and still making it work. You've just found ways around it versus people that have maybe been in it longer, where my limiting belief is like, oh man, it's just too hard to invest right now. My old strategies aren't working, so it just doesn't work. Versus you're like, real estate's still awesome.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out how to make it work today.
The question isn't can or can I? It's I absolutely can. So how? The question is how. If it's bringing in a partner, if it's bringing in capital from somewhere else, if it's different business model like Airbnb, because that'll support today's mortgages. It's how, not yes or no.
Well, and I want a lot of people to know too, Austin, it impresses me because he can't sacrifice much more because he is already so cheap. Like just short of making his wife eat cardboard, he can't save money, right?
It's true.
So it just goes down to it. You can afford it, but how, right?
Yeah.
And how is.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think I'm willing to spend money on assets that I believe in. I get cheap when I know I'm going to eat or drink said thing and it's going to be gone, right? And so there's a trade-off there. There's sacrifices there.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good lesson you say to your clients too. Like, hey, you're more concerned about being able to go to the Olive Garden on every Wednesday night than you are to, and it's not that they're selfish or rude. I just don't think they think about it. And I think that's why us as agents and you as clients and other agents, we can soundboard each other. Call us, talk to us. Even if you're not ready to buy a house, let's start changing the mindset. Hey,
what's it going to take?
Yeah. What is it that what I really want? Right. I love the Olive Garden, love that time with my family, but I also live in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 kids.
What do you want more is the question.
Exactly.
Do you want a new house more? Do you want to keep living the same way more?
And I think when you actually ask that to someone right straight to their face, because everyone likes that quick gluttony feeling, right? I'm guilty of it. Look at me, right? But here's the thing. When I get confronted and I get soundboarded and like we're talking and because I thought I had life by the tail till last night and I got about every couple of weeks I get punched in the face by somebody that's been there, done that. And I just think that reality starts setting in when somebody actually calls you to the table. Hey, Peyton, do you like your nice house? And maybe you have to do this with your spouses or you talk to your wife. Hey, yeah, we have a great house right now, but the kids want horses and they need room to grow. And that's why we're making the sacrifice. And even though it's hard for her, she can see that by talking to her husband or your wife and getting that soundboard, which makes her willing to sacrifice.
Right. So let's pivot over to Austin.
Let's talk about your deal.
Yeah, it's time for me to put up or shut up or walk the talk, however you want to put it. What I've been saying to clients.
Let's do a little role play. Me and Agent Peyton are your
My agents.
Yeah, we're a team agent.
All right.
And you're right now, Austin's attempting to buy a home, one that he's I'm assuming going to live in. Or
let me give a really quick background. So we're house sitting. We have about 18 months of free living, other than utilities.
Right.
But my bet, just like I said before, it's not going to get any better, right? As far as home prices. My bet is that if we buy now a house that we don't need because we have free living and put a renter in there, we'll probably lose about $500 per month on that renter. But my bet is that loss is less than the appreciation that's going to happen on the type of property that we're going to be wanting in 18 months.
So why are you hesitant? Why haven't we written you an offer yet, Austin?
No,
You've obviously done the math.
He has written an offer.
No, I know. I think he's.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah.
He got a counter back.
Yes, we got a counter that we're accepting this morning.
You are accepting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So work me through up to the point of your offer. What did your wife talk about? What sacrifices did you have to make or possibly going to have to make?
So ideally we would have put 10% down, right? That, a lot of people like 5, some people don't want any PMI at 20, but 10% just felt right and safe and, enough equity in case the market, whatever, I don't know. But with where we're at in our lending, last year was my first full year as a solo agent, completely by myself. We took write-offs, and anyway, where that puts us on DTI is we need to put in quite a bit more than 10%. So
you're draining your bank account.
Exactly. So that's my hesitancy is we can do this, we can pull it off, we can afford it, but by the time we're done buying, our checking account will be pretty much drained,
depleted, right?
Yeah.
And so you're risking and sacrificing your nest egg.
The rule that we came up with is we would do this only if we didn't have to touch our nest egg, our investments, purely our checking account.
Okay. So, but at the end of the day, your comfort and money is going to be going away.
Yes, we're going to be squeezed. Yeah.
So you have another layer of like, if things get really bad.
See how cheap he is? He's freaking out. He's over here going, man, we just have to spend our play money.
And then we have properties we could sell off if we really got in trouble.
So you have all these other levels that you could tap into if things got really bad.
Yeah.
Like I have a Tesla in the truck. Like if you see me sell the Tesla,
we know what. Sorry, just that reminded me. Our sacrifice was we were about to pull the trigger on a Telluride in like 2 months. Yeah, that's not happening anymore.
That's just going to depreciate. Like
the Telluride.
Yeah,
it's not what the sales guy says, but yes, yes.
So why are you want to buy this house because you feel like it checks 9 out of 10 boxes? Like you're like, chances of us finding this house for this price in this area,
exactly,
1 to 2 years from now is very, very unlikely.
This property is so rare, and it provides. We're essentially buying a lifestyle, right? We're not buying a property because.
So this is more selfish. This is not an investment. Really.
No, not at all. This is like I see my kids growing up a certain way, and this property easily does that for them.
Yeah, gives that to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Which there's value to that, right? Like,
and
I'm taking on $5,500 a month for a horse, right?
yeah. Essentially, that's what's fun.
And we're not even adding into the equation.
The horse, yeah.
The vet bill and the feeding.
Oh my gosh.
I think the other bet I'm assuming or taking is that there is no other property in the areas that we want to live in for this price that can provide what this one provides. So to give you some context, it's on a full acre and it's a usable full acre. And there's
it's the volleyball court,
right. And there's a sports court, it's within something we can do.
Can you not Airbnb it for a year? And
somebody tells me that South Weber is very strict on allowing Airbnb.
I think you try it until
I wouldn't try
you
it.
Get shut down.
The problem with trying is you got to invest about $25,000 of furniture that you don't necessarily want if you get shut down.
And in 2 years, $25,000 divided by the rents, it doesn't bounce back.
The loss on the long-term rental is probably better than the $25,000 furniture.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so you're saying you can buy it and you're going to be negative
you're going to be paying
$500 a month, but probably more than that because the money that you could have invested, like
the return on keeping that cash.
Yeah, the return, but you're doing it for your wife, for your kids. I mean, that's what there's people that are all numbers and then people that are like, there's experiences in life.
Yeah.
And there is a time and there is a cost to experiences in life that I think people
they don't put into their equation.
No,
I love my parents, but they are 100% numbers driven.
Yeah.
My dad would bring up the fact that, you're losing 8 to 10% on that $6,000 a year that you're losing in rent that could have been in the stock market.
But you're like, Dad, this is a place that I'm going to be like out playing on the sports court with my kids, like at 8 o'clock at night, the lights shining down.
Yeah. Summer night. You can't, Like I say, you can't buy that, but you can, and that's what we're trying to do.
That's what you're trying to do.
You're essentially, and I keep beating this because that's the kind of the topic of this podcast is you're sacrificing a $500 a month just to preserve your right to have this house in 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot
at
of-
this,
and
at
a
this
lot of-
price, at 2024 pricing too.
And at a lot of possibilities with that other money
So-
that you're tying up.
So let me ask you
Right.
this, Austin.
Opportunity cost.
Fast forward, how many more years or time do you have left in your house sitting situation?
We'd
year?
probably move into this in about 14 months or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward 14 months. Market gets way worse. Rates go up, and that house is worth 20% less. Are you still glad you did it? For the lifestyle of living that house would provide?
Probably, because again, I don't know how many full acres in, well, I don't want to
Yeah.
say locations and
Yeah.
anyway, but I don't know how many listings there are in our price range that provide that sort of thing. So when we are ready to buy, I don't know if we would be able to buy that again.
And you're not looking at it as like you only lose money when you sell, you know this.
Right.
And so if your overall projection, let's
Yeah.
say that's
We're going to be there
10-year
for at least 10 years.
Okay, 10 years. The Olympics are coming to Utah.
Yeah.
Things are booming
Mhm.
and people are looking at real estate in the area. Like there's a good chance that we're significantly above the values that you're at. And I think that when you look back at this decision, it would be a drop in the hat,
Right.
like whether you bought it or whether you didn't.
That year of appreciation, loss,
Yeah.
or gain or loss
Yeah.
is dropping that.
Because you're talking 6, 7, 8 grand in loss of
Yeah.
income is all.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
in your line of work,
That's
just
one deal.
just
yeah.
get one deal.
Yeah. I'm going to make
closed.
up for it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just put in an extra hour a day.
Yeah, power hour.
Yeah.
Here's a question I want to ask you too. I'm going to ask you each about your personals, and then I'm going to throw a question out. Is that you're doing right now emotional or investing? More so.
Both,
Which
but
one's
more
so?
more emotional. That's the most important for me.
You're justifying the emotion, the investment you're trying to make work. But if
I'm-
you were just buying this and it is an income property, would you buy it?
Out of income, no. Out of speculation, yes. Sure. So
Mm.
Same, and probably same. You're
Less-
more emotional, and
Yes.
that yours is all speculative.
Yeah.
Because you're saying next year
No, but I'm.
you're speculating that house is going to cost more
Yeah.
and doesn't exist. Which
but the reason you're
Yeah.
taking that risk is for what
it's
you
purely
want.
for the emotional lifestyle that I
Yeah.
want to have my family live.
Which is why we're
I'd say it's a
here. We're
hybrid.
here to like I look at my kids, like Kadri is 8 to almost turning 9. She's got one foot out the door, right? Another 8 years, like double her life, she's gone.
yeah.
Right.
So like if I want her to experience horses and these things that I want to
Mhm.
experience, like I
Yeah.
have to be able to provide that. Like I don't have unlimited time to wait.
Time is now.
100%.
Yeah.
And so yours is probably similar.
And I like all of that. And here's where I'm going to implore the next question to both of you. You guys have younger kids than I do.
Yeah.
I have a grown ass adult daughter.
Yeah.
right? And they are talking about moving out and renting and stuff like that. What would you tell your kids when they get older? Say they're faced with this decision of
Mhm.
they want to get it. They've got good jobs, and I'll tell you my kids' situation. They've got good jobs. They do well for themselves. They're starting to be better with their debt, with a little bit of guidance and realization of what's going on in the world. They can afford $3,500 a month. Would you tell your kids to get in it?
I think if I was confident in their ability to perform and not like sink the ship, I would say yes.
Mhm.
But if they had a history of
Yeah.
missing credit card
Yep.
payments or late car payments or things like that, I might be like, well, you still have other lessons to learn. But if I felt
Yeah.
they were capable and could grit through it, like there's something about like taking on the challenge and making it work, and it steps you up like to another level.
What if at like 20 to 23 years old, this puts them in a situation where they
Mhm.
won't be able to travel. They
Yeah.
won't be able to rodeo. They won't be able to go out to dinners. It's
Mhm.
like you work on your house.
But are they paying rent right now?
No,
Okay.
they're living at
I-
home. But it
I
does,
would
but
say that
would you-
enforces good living habits.
Yeah. It forces
While-
sacrifice.
While their peers can afford to do that because they don't have a mortgage, that's not necessarily the responsible the way to spend
Okay.
money. If they're not ready
Sure.
to be responsible and they say that, then yeah, it doesn't sound like homeownership's for them yet.
sure, but
but-
is anybody ready? I mean, were we ready to be responsible? And then this is where I'm going to kind of agree to disagree with you guys. You guys are getting a little too analytical. No, and I agree on if they're, doing drugs and stealing cars, yeah, probably don't
Mhm.
try to get them to buy a house. But if they're, which we hope we all can do as parents, basically make them functioning members of society,
Yeah.
I would 100% say the longer you're in the house
Mhm.
or in the market, your life is going to be better on. Right?
100%, yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and you guys were hesitant. You were weird about maybe I wouldn't or would tell my kid. And it'd be really situational. What if you could go back in time and tell yourself at 20 years old? What would you tell yourself to do?
Yeah, buy the house.
Yeah. Buy properties in Utah.
Right? Whether we see the craze rise or not, you're going to,
Yeah.
even before our crazy doubling in money, you would still say,
That's
hey,
true.
Ben,
If you can do
the
it,
second you get out of high school and you
do
can
it.
afford it, buy a property.
Yeah.
Buy another one. Sell that one, fix it up. You would do it.
I think society is moving away. Like there are some people that are very pro renters, I mean,
True.
I don't know. I feel like the American dream is slipping from a lot of the younger generation where maybe owning a house isn't as important and maybe just getting a really good income, investing that wisely. Like I don't want to box people into like, this is the only way to succeed in life. Cause they're definitely for every case of, a multimillionaire being created through real estate, there's other people that have done it through the stock market or businesses. It's just like for your average person that wants a family, a place to come home to, like there's just a fundamental nature that like is in us to own like the dirt that you're living on, that where you're at, like a place to call home.
Yep.
And that is scarce and really hard to move. And so naturally real estate there's a lot of value. Like people can't just slap up homes really quickly to satisfy the demand that's out there of everybody that's coming to Utah and wanting to be here. So do I have a very optimistic outlook over the next forever in Utah? Yeah, I think it's looking really good. And if somebody wants a house and if it's between paying rent and buying a house 100% of the time makes sense. And I like your situation because you don't have to buy one, but you're like forethinking of like what is going to have to happen. Your kids, they can't live with family forever. Eventually, they will have to start having some expense there. So the sooner they can get that on their radar and get locked into a house and get that price set, because I've seen way too many clients wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and
Last
wait and
night,
wait.
I had an hour-long conversation with a client that he called me to tell me that they're no longer interested because they talked to a lender and got shell-shocked.
Yeah.
And throughout the talking, you have different sayings we say as realtors, and it's just bringing up the conversation to get our clients to think, right? To look at all the angles. And he said to me, yeah, I should have listened to everybody in my family right when we got married at 20 years old.
You're like, can I record this so I can play it in 5 years?
And I just told him, I said, are you going to say this in 5 years?
Yeah.
Are you going to say this in 10 years again?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, would you have been mad to be broke when you were 20? And he's like, well, yeah. And he goes, would you still be mad now? He's like, no, I would be eons ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
I said, I always tell people the only thing that I will guarantee in real estate is the longer you're in the market,
The happier you'll be.
the better your life and situation will get.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, look, it's tough right now. And this does go to people too. And I think the general population that are buying houses and stuff, they're not flatlining yet. When someone's struggling, can I afford this? They're growing, right? In their careers and their families and their lives. Like, are you done making any more money than you're making this year? No, your situation's only going to get better. That $5,000 a month payment's only going to get better. You're never going to refi again for a worse rate, right? If anything, you're going to refi to something cheaper or, buy a new house when raised or whatever that is.
Yeah.
You set the situation. If I can do it now, yes, it's an uphill climb and it's going to be sucky, but you're never going to fall down the mountain, right?
Yeah.
Unless you give up and you lose your core values.
Well, and I just know that if the market gets bad enough to where I'm losing properties and homes and stuff like that,
there's bigger things.
There's bigger problems, and
Everyone's
that's where I have
feeling it.
guns and ammo and like food storage, you know? Like, because I've set up my life to where I could almost go get a job at
Walmart.
Home Depot.
And
I'd work at Home Depot.
and make the bills. Like that's an option for me. I mean, if all my tenants quit paying, sure, maybe like I would be in a world of hurt, but like in what case does that happen?
And that's the thing. And don't get me wrong, it's all possible.
It
but
could
I think
happen.
if you're basing buying a house on that, like you're worrying about the wrong thing.
Right.
Or like, secret billionaires, those are the ones that are worried. They're worried about saving their money to buy on the recession crash, right?
Yeah.
Me and you, we're worried about feeding our families when it gets that bad.
Yeah.
Or staying alive or having power or
yeah.
So people that hear, well, what happens if, we go to World War III? Well, then we have bigger problems than if you can afford your house or not.
Right. I think one regret I have in my business is I've had so many clients like that call that you had last night where they were on the edge, and there's been a lot of people that I've just been like, okay, like, let me know when you're ready. And I feel like maybe that extra or this podcast that we could have sent to them, like, hey, there has not been one property that I bought that I felt like, oh, this is easy peasy. Like, this isn't stretching me, not one bit. Every property, I'm like, oh man, depleting the bank account, like all the way down. And then I'm like, okay, we got to rebuild it back up. Like, hope the furnace doesn't go out.
There's not one property that's been easy for you, but also not one that you probably regret either.
There's probably been better than worse, but you probably like, I'm sure you're talking about your Van Buren one, but
my Bear Lake one that we had to sell. I learned.
You learned. But I going back to, you said, I wish I would have, instead of when they said, I'm done, just be like, oh, okay. And it's hard as agents because you don't want to push somebody into a situation they're not ready for.
Salesy.
So I really, and I'm looking right at the camera. The big line I drop is, hey, we're not ready. We don't want to buy this house. That payment's way too much. Yeah, we can afford it, but we're going to be house broke. I hear that. We'll just be house broke. I say, hey, look, I'm going to go realtor on you, right? And I just want you to think. I don't want you to make a decision, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate. And then we just talk. We talk through exactly like we've talked through here today. But no, your agent is here to make you think and be a soundboard.
Yeah. Whether
you're ready or not. And I tell them, hey, whether it's tomorrow you want to write an offer, 2 years from now, you need to be thinking about this like now.
Mm-hmm. So let me give you a scenario, because this is an interesting question. So say you have a family and they live in a location they don't necessarily love, and they really want to be in a different location. But in order to get that, the wife would have to go back and work, be able to afford for that new payment if they were to sell that house and upgrade into a different area. Or they can stay in that house that they own. They own it, but they bought in it at a good time. And it allows her to still be a stay-at-home mom with the kids and have that lifestyle. What do? Do you choose the house and the location, or
what do I do as an agent, or what do I do in their spot?
I mean, what's your advice to that
same
person?
thing? Here, I'm going to go agent on you, Peyton.
Yeah.
Your wife is going to have to go back to work. Say,
yeah,
I was a little kind of role play. All right, your wife's going to have to go back to work. Is she against that?
Yeah, she really wants to stay home with the kids. Like, that's number one priority for her.
But does she want this new house?
She would like it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want her to stay home?
Yes.
Okay, here's what I'm saying right now. You have some personal things that you and your wife need to talk about. And until you guys can come to an understanding on what that is, and I think you need to talk about them.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be looking at anything. What is the goal? Do you guys have a goal, right? Are you wanting to buy this house?
We would like to, but...
Is the only way for your wife to go back to work?
No, there's probably other ways.
Well, then let's find some other ways. Let's sit down and talk about it.
That's where they haven't crossed, is like that in their eyes. That's the only option. Is her go back to work. They're not looking at, can he get a better job? Can they do a mother-in-law apartment? Can he do a second job?
Spend less.
Yeah.
And these are real clients that you have?
Yeah, that's a real story.
And I'm gonna give you some advice, because
I
would, and I do this, and I have notes in my house, push notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need to call so-and-so and remind them that they need to be talking tonight. Right? I always tell, go home, fight with your wife, fight with your husband, right? And that's how you get stuff done. You need to go home and have these hard conversations, because they're going, I don't want to work. And then it gets to this kind of boiling point, and then we turn the stove off and it's gone.
Yeah.
I would suggest you, just like that conversation, come up, hey, Tony and Amanda, if that's big.
Yeah.
Have you guys talked? Have you thought about other ways? Let's call next week. Let's brainstorm on another way you can get the money to get here, either in his job or her job, or what about a part-time job for her, or a nights, or tell someone, let's sell something. But push them to what sacrifices, right? Because that's what we're talking about right there. They want a new house, but they don't want to sacrifice as a family, which, and if you choose not to, great. There's not a wrong answer. But know that it doesn't just happen, right? There's not going to be a magical solution. And a lot of people don't want to hear it, but they're glad when they get it told.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe there's one party that doesn't want to say it to the other party.
Yeah.
And it sucks sometimes to be the dick.
Right.
But I say, well,
you create.
you have to, if you want this, you have to sacrifice something somewhere.
Yeah.
Mhm. Something
there's
has
not a
to
magic
give.
solution.
Yeah.
So either be okay where you're at, or let's figure out a good sacrifice or a new solution or more work. There's always a give and a take for what you want.
Mhm.
Dude, I have some clients I need to be saying that.
Well, how
I
do you
need to have
feel
a
right
hard time.
now?
About,
Yeah, are you
about
talking-
my
yeah.
own thing.
Yeah.
I want this to be edited and posted so I can watch it before I go to bed every night because I'll sleep much better.
Well-
and for my wife too. I mean, this whole conversation, I wish she could have been sitting in that chair listening because I feel
Listening to
better.
Counselor Ben.
I feel better.
Here's the thing, and
Well,
I'm going to say as
No,
agents,
don't give him all the credit. No.
as agents, we morph a little bit to our clients and we tread lightly and here and there.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm learning, and it's going to bite me in the ass one day. I'm going to piss some people off, and that's okay. As an agent, more often than not, people need help with honesty. They don't want they ask
We're not
you
here
they
to be
ask
a
you for what
friend.
your opinion is,
Yeah.
and we don't want to give them because it doesn't. But
We don't want to lose him as a client.
just like I'm sure all of us have some friends, right? You watch your friends have a marital fight or a friend fight, and you're going, he is blind and he's being a
Mhm.
jackie, or
Mhm.
she is off her rocker,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? And if honestly, if you have a good friendship, you can come up to that person and be like, I'm going to tell you what I saw here. Take it or leave it. I don't care, but this is what I saw from my outside perspective. And if they can't take that criticism and either go, I agree or disagree, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we need to do that with our clients. If we see maybe, so here's a client I have. Wife doesn't work, same thing. When they first got married, she was going to work until all the kids are in school. Well, all the kids have been in school for a little over 2 years now.
Mm.
And I told them, I said, well, if that was your agreement, then you're the problem right now with why you can't move forward.
Yeah.
And she stormed out, pissed off. And I almost lost a friendship until because it was a friend, they got together, talked, and they come to a compromise that she found a job that she was able to go to work right after her kids went to school. And she was able to be off work
When they got
right before her kids got home.
Yeah.
And it worked out perfect because it freed up just enough money, different things like that. But if we're as agents not willing to make our clients think about that sacrifice, because it's hard
Mhm.
It is.
because we're asking people dirty, rotten secrets about their lives, right? Like someone's telling you income,
expenses.
how much money have you saved, or
Yeah.
how bad have you been for the last 4 years?
Right.
You've got to just give them a raw, hard truth. And you can be a little more delicate with,
Right.
with certain clients, but I think not telling them you're not doing your duty, your fiduciary as an agent.
Yeah.
If you see the problem, bring it up.
You don't.
Yeah, in a way that's professional, but it
Right.
has to be spoke about. So
Well, and it goes back to all the clients. Like, I mean, I have people that we've been talking about buying a house for a few years now. There's one in particular.
Hmm.
The house that they wanted to buy was like $650 a while ago. It's like pushing $900 now.
Mm.
And luckily they still have the house, but I'm like, man, you guys have been like just settling for less for this whole time. And you could make this work. It's just they don't the need is not there yet for them. Like it's not painful enough where they're at to get to where they want to be. But it's crazy because once you like move into a new house, you're like, oh my gosh, like I remember
why
when
the hell didn't we?
we were living in our basement apartment of our fourplex for a few years. And then we moved just down the street to a single family house in South Ogden. And I'm like, what the kitchen window like was like picture perfect of Ben Lomond.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is amazing.
Right.
We made it.
And then we
made
moved
it.
from that house to Eden. And I'm like,
Whoa.
What have I been doing?
there's a trail like right out my backyard that I can go hop on. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then I'm excited to see where the next one goes. But like, it's just like you get out of life what you ask for. And if you have that vision, like you can figure it out, like, especially couples, like, hey, what do we need to do to make this work? And then having the right agent, like Ben's great for like prodding people to actually think and not just like give up on their hopes and their dreams.
Should we send our people to him to be the bad cop and then have him send them back to us to
No,
once they're
because
on
he
board?
would just steal them.
He would steal them.
He would steal
or
them.
completely piss them off. They wouldn't come back to us ever.
No, I think he'd steal them. He'd piss them off, and then they'd be like, "Ben, you're right." And let's
it goes back to the old fable of no offense, but
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to tell you this, and you might
It's
not
gonna be
like
hard.
you might not like to hear it, but I'm
Yeah.
going to say it, so don't hate me.
Yeah.
I start when I'm about to say something controversial to them.
Yeah.
And before I can even finish that, I get oh, don't worry, I don't have feelings, because they're prepped and they're like, they know something, they know they have issues. They just don't
Yeah.
want to say it out loud or
Yeah.
say it to a spouse or a spouse, and maybe they both know it. So if you just get a good dialogue of,
That's Ben's secret.
Gosh.
That's his secret. We have to be more direct.
I have
I'm
some
working
homework. I
on
need
it.
to do this. I have a few clients I need to do this with.
for example, I had a 2-year client, and his family member was a lender, and they couldn't get it done. They just couldn't, so weirdly couldn't get it done, and wouldn't work with me very well. I finally, and this one was my biggest, because it was me, right? I had to say, like, they can't do it. Your family is wrong, and I am done working with you unless you call another lender. If you call another lender and you still want to use your family, that's fine. I'll still help you, but I'll be done with you. And we're under contract, and we'll close at the end of this month.
Really?
Less than 30 days from when we had that conversation. We're halfway through a 30-day escrow.
That's crazy.
No.
Well, I'm excited to follow up on this because we're going to see if Austin buys this house or not.
Right. I can't
I have
you
I have
might,
a meeting with the lender at 12, so he might just put a kibosh to all of this and be like, "No, you definitely can't." We'll see.
So getting over the I can't afford it, I just don't want to's.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good one.
Yeah.
No, this is great. I
Helpful.
think there's a lot of people this will help, and set your goals high, and like where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And I think it's very easy for people to be like, "Oh, Ben has X amount of rentals. Good for him." It wasn't easy when you bought those.
Exactly. But I've had to sell feet pics, which
Right.
I'm not proud of.
Feet pics.
So
Oh man. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and hopefully this helps you nudge you to get off the fence if
break
you
that
are
wall.
if that is something you really want. We're here to get you what you really want. If you're being honest with us and that the American dream is what you want, hopefully this gets you closer to that goal.
bye.